So the most important or the best part of fantasy football for us is the draft. We celebrate the draft. We get into a hotel and draft all day long and really celebrate it. But the draft is also very important and stressful. Are there some strategies in the draft that you do in every draft? Like I will get, for example, I will get my quarterback late. I will get a running back start in the first round. Are there some strategies you try to implement in all of your drafts?
So it depends which draft I'm in. If I'm in a PPR draft, I'm definitely going to try to take a wide receiver with one of my first 2 picks. If I'm in a standard league, I like to try to take a running back with one of my first 2 picks. If I'm in a 2 quarterback league, I like to get both of my quarterbacks before round 6. If I can, I like to get at least one quarterback in the first 2 rounds, or if I can get a really stud guy like a Breeze, Brady, or Rodgers, I'll wait pretty late and then get another quarterback. In standard leagues, though, in general, I like to wait on a QB unless I can get one of the big 3, Brady, Breeze, or Rodgers, but I don't normally take those guys until rounds 3, 4, 5, so they don't normally end up on my team.
Okay.
But when there's just so many good quarterbacks in the NFL, so you can just wait, and I'm okay getting guys like Tyrod Taylor, Andy Dalton late in my drafts and building a stud team around them. But the other rule that I definitely live by is it's okay to drink a little, but wait until after, and then you guys can have fun. But
yeah,
we're too nervous, right? We never drink before the draft. No.
Yeah. Germans never drink in general, I know.
Right. 0 RB, 0 wide receiver are some strategies a lot of people hear about. Mm-hmm. Are you preferring one of them, or are you...
So for me, I've never really done 0 wide receiver. I'm not crazy about that. If I will do one, it's 0 RB, and that's only in a PPR league. And the reason that is because I think you can find pass-catching running backs late in drafts, and you can build your team around that. With that being said, I don't go into a draft saying this is exactly what I'm going to do. I build out tiers. So what I mean by that is my tier 1 running backs are Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson, and Zeke. My tier 2 running backs are Melvin Gordon and LaShawn McCoy. What I do then is I put each position in its own tier, and then I look as to how the draft's going, and if I have a tier 1 guy compared to a tier 2 guy at another position, I go with the tier 1 position. Every draft is different, and at the Fantasy Footballers, they have a saying, you have to be water, you have to just mold to each of your drafts, and you can't treat every draft the same. It's just not realistic. So having experience and having some sort of game plan and knowledge on the players that you want is, I think, more of a helpful tip than just saying, I'm going to get a wide receiver, a running back, a quarterback, tight end, and that's it, no matter what. You're going to end up screwing yourself.
So it's all about roster construction, right? ADP, is it important for you? Or do you have your own ADP or your own rankings and work by them?
So I do have my own rankings, which you can find at gridironexperts.com, or you can find on Fantasy Pros and just click Pick Experts, and you can just select my name. With that being said, I know who certain people like in my leagues, and when you're in expert leagues, you can check out their rankings. When you're with your friends or your family, you kind of know from past years certain guys that they like, but I stick to ADP. So whatever the ADP is on my draft board, so if I'm using ESPN, I'm going to pull up ESPN's ADP because the normal person doesn't do research the way that I do, and I know that. So they're going to rely on people who put out the ADP. And if I can take advantage of seeing what people think, then you can get better bargains and draft certain guys when you want them. So you definitely need to pay attention to ADP all season long, though, so you can watch guys rise and fall.
Do you strictly live by your own rankings? I find it hard myself sometimes that I got my rankings in front of me and I have to take a player which I usually don't like, but he's the highest available on my draft board. So for me personally, it's hard then to draft this player. Are you strictly on your own rankings, or are there some situations in drafts that you're like, man, I got to take him, but I take a guy that's behind him because that's my feeling right now?
It's a good question. So the way I'll look at it as, I'm a guy who always likes to get value in my drafts. If I look at my rankings and like, let's say I have Mike Gillislee really high. He's my running back, 12 or 13. And according to my rankings, he should go as the pick like 30 or 31. If I'm in a regular draft, I won't take Mike Gillislee at RB 13. I won't take him at pick overall 30 because I'll look at his ADP and his ADP says he's going to go 20, 30 picks later. So I'll try to wait on that value and I'll get him at that point. I hope that answers your question. Like, I do look at my rankings and I do try to combine my rankings with normal ADP, but at the end of the day, I look at value, and I'm going to try to get a guy at a value no matter what.
So you're looking at for the guys, so you're waiting for the guys to fall, and then you take them. Okay.
Like if I have a guy that's ranked higher than another guy, but according to ADP, I'm trying to think of a good example. So if Brandon Cooks and Sammy Watkins, I have Sammy Watkins ranked, I think, higher than Brandon Cooks, but Brandon Cooks goes before Sammy Watkins in drafts. If I want both of those guys on my team, I'm okay drafting Brandon Cooks first because I know Sammy Watkins is going to fall. So then I have a better chance of getting both instead of just getting one.